Hi guys, it's Mike and thanks for joining me on this next video. This is all about font sizing with CSS. So learning objectives on this one is understand font sizing and the differences between the three main options or the three most popular options, PX for pixels, EM and REM. So let's crack on. They are the most used options, and PX stands for pixels, but effectively it's like dots per inch on the screen. And PX sets the exact height, and we'll see that in action in a moment. REM, which EM stands for ephemeral units, would you believe? So that's why we call it EM, because that's a hard word to say. So REM effectively relates to the font size in the root, and we'll do that coding shortly. And then EM relates to the font size set in the parent element. We'll be playing around with that shortly too. But first, let's have a look at a REM example, REM. And I mentioned it relates to the root. So right at the top, we've set a font size of 20 pixels against the root element, which is HTML, curly brackets. Okay, so font size 20 in the root, and then the H1 I've sized at 2 REM, and that's just how we spell it, no space, 2 REM. And then the paragraph sizes, I've put a font size of 0.8 or 0.8 REM. The so what is, if we look at the maths at the bottom, the H1 is 20 pixels, which is in the root, times 2, and therefore it's 40 pixels high. The paragraph tags, it's 20 times 0.8, and therefore the font size will be 16 pixels for the paragraphs. Right, so REM is related to the root size, and don't forget that, please. All right. However, the EM, and here's the example. So at the top, I've set an article, if you like, article font size of 20, and an aside font size of 16 pixels. So obviously we'll have paragraphs within articles and asides. The so what? Well, look at the bottom and let's do the maths. Paragraph sizes in the article using EM is 20 times 0.8, and therefore that's 16 pixels high. But in the aside, it's 16 times 0.8, and that equates to 12.8 pixels high. So let's check some coding out, shall we? Hi, so on the left-hand side, I've got my text editor. I'm using Text Wrangler, and on the right-hand side, as usual, I've got my Google Chrome browser, and I'm just going to zoom in a bit. So what we've got here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraph lines, okay? And looking at our HTML, this is the first paragraph line, and then the next 3 are inside an article tag and closing tag. And then the final paragraph is outside the article. So notice on the inside, just here, inside the article tag, I've given each paragraph a class of inside. Anyway, so if you want to just copy that code or type that code out and follow me through, that's great. And you can stop the video and type that out. In the meantime, I'll carry on. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of this horrible font. I don't like Times New Roman font on a web page, just like in my last video I showed you how to do this. So in the root element, HTML, curly brackets, I'm going to give you a font family of Arial. I'm not going to, for this demonstration, give you a secondary and tertiary. So Arial and sort of semicolon and 3, 2, 1. What we've got is all the paragraphs with Arial. So, right, first things first, let's have a look at setting the font family of all paragraphs with pixels. So, instead of font hyphen family, we've got font hyphen size, and colon, and then semicolon. And let's go large, let's go 24 pixels, okay? I don't know why, but whenever I'm using sizes on CSS, I hate to use odd numbers. It's really bizarre. So I always use even numbers, so hence 24. So I've hit save, come over to refresh to 1 now, and you can see the all the paragraphs have gone big, and the size of the capital letters will be exactly 24 pixels. So that's pretty straightforward. Setting font size, font hyphen size, colon, the number, no space px, and then semicolon. Okay, no space px. Right, I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to hit save and refresh, and the font goes back to normal. You probably think, well, hang on your browser at home, it's smaller than what Mike is showing you, and that is because I have zoomed out. So yours will look like that. I'm zooming in so you can just see it on the screen better. Okay. Now let's have a think about REM as the font size setting. Okay. Now REM relates to the font size that is set at the root of our application. So I'm going to put a font size of 20 in here, which again is big, and you have to use PX in that area. So I'm going to hit save and refresh, and you can see all the font has gone a bit bigger. Okay. Now, if I go for the P tags, okay, so I want the P elements, paragraph elements, to be sized in relation to, let's go 1.5 times the font size in the root. So that would be 1.5 REM. So font size colon 1.5 REM semicolon. And that's all you need to do. So what I'm expecting is 20 times 1.5, which in my book is 30 pixels. So this these paragraphs are going to go really big now in 3, 2, 1, and they have gone really big. So how about that? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, in fact, let's just come down to 1 REM. So they are 1 times 20, so that's 20 px, but still in relation to the font size set in the root. So now what I'm going to do is set the font size for everything in articles. Okay, so font size, and let's go 10 pixels, in fact 12. Okay, so font size 12 pixels, everything in the article, and I'm hitting save, come over to the browser, 2, 1, refresh, and all of a sudden nothing occurred. So if I now go using the class, okay, dot inside, you remember from CSS video 1 that we used the dot to add the class, and now font size, and we're going to use EM, not REM, font hyphen size, and let's go 3EM. So what are we expecting here? So 3 times 12. Using EM, it's going to use the relative size of the parent, right? Where inside is the child of the article, or article is the parent of the inside. So we're expecting 36 pixels, which is going to be 16 pixels bigger than the others. Okay, I'm hitting save and 2, 1, refresh, and there we go. So you can see the first P tag up here and the last P tag are small in comparison to the 3 in the article. So let's do some maths, and I'm just going to put this article font to 10, okay, just to keep the math simple, and hit refresh. So they've gone a bit smaller. So how do we, here's a little exercise for you to think about, how do we make now the paragraphs in the article the same size as those outside the article? Okay, so doing the sums, the ones outside the article are 1 EM, so that's 1 times 20 is 20. Hurrah. So how many 10s are in 20? Well, funnily enough, that's 2. So I'm going to set 2 EM, and the EMs are related to the size of the parent. I'm going to hit save and refresh in 2, 1 now, and you can see everything is the same. So there we go, all on one page, if you like, or a couple of lines of code. We've got PX and PX again. We've got an REM and an EM. The REM relates to what's in the root, and the EM relates to the font size in the parent. Okay, so that's it for the code now, and we'll be moving on in the next video to looking at more font styling. I'm going to hit save, just hit refresh, and let's go to the slides that I used earlier on. And looking at the learning objectives, which were to understand font sizing and the difference between PX, REM and EM. I think we've covered that in our little coding session. PX sets the exact height. REM is related to the root, so R for root is the way that I remember it, and the EM is related to the parent. So that's it from me in this video. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the next video. Don't forget to like or subscribe. Thanks.